What's going on YouTube, it's your boy Barber Jase. Welcome back to another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I'm sorry guys, I've been out of action, but don't worry, new year, I've got a lot of new videos coming out. But let's jump straight into the video. I got my young G in the chair, man like Cali, and we are going for a sort of drop fade. He likes the curls on top, so we're going to keep it disconnected and we're just going to tidy up the top. I'm going to cut the top into a square shape. So after wetting down the top, I'm just going to comb out the hair to straighten it out as much as possible so it's easier to cut. So now I'm creating my profile line, sectioning it out. I'm going to cut off about an inch off the top. Right here I'm checking the last haircut, and as you can see the back is longer than the front. So I'm going to take off an inch off the front and it's going to be slightly more off the back. Towards the front of the profile line I'm rounding it so it doesn't sit as heavy on the fringe. As you can see right here, I'm putting the hair at an angle. I'm following the shape of the head just at the front of the profile line. Everything else I'm going to keep it square. Here I'm cutting my layers, I'm keeping everything square, following my profile line, and I'm sweeping in horizontal sections. After the right side is done, I'm going to comb the profile line over to the left side and I'm going to repeat the same thing, pulling everything straight up, keeping my fingers square, and I'm cutting from my guide, which is my profile line, at the tip of my finger. At the back, I'm going to cut vertical sections, cutting towards the face, using the front as my guide. I'm also going to round the back so it's not as heavy. Right here I'm doing a pinching technique. I'm kind of pinching my sections, which is a more efficient way to section. So right here the back is connected but the sides are disconnected. So right now I need to gradually connect it into the back. I'm also pulling down the hair so I can see it's even on both sides. I'm pulling it down just above the ear and I'm just point cutting a nice shape into it. Also at the front I'm going to pull the fringe down and I'm just going to take off the tips to give the fringe a stronger shape. So before drying the hair I'm going to apply some sea salt spray, making it rain. I always apply sea salt spray on damp hair before drying into style. I'm also going to use a diffuser to keep the curls nice and tight, and I'm using my other hand to scrunch the hair into position. Now the hair is 80% dry, I'm going to move on to the clipper work, but before that I need to clip away the disconnections, so I've got a nice clean canvas to work on. So I'm using a number 3 to remove the bulk and to create a nice shape to work underneath when I'm doing my fade. When I reach the weight line, I use the comb and I comb into the clipper, which will create a nice weight line above it. When reaching that weight line, I slowly clipper down and I comb the hair into the clipper, just let the clipper do the work. Now inserting my placement line, I'm going to drop it a little bit at the front, keeping it kind of low. I want to maintain that weight around the curvature, so I don't want to take the fade too high, but high enough to see a nice clean fade. So right here I'm actually putting in the line. I don't usually do this, but you know, I'm just switching it up. This is how a lot of the people do it on YouTube, so I'm showing you my way of doing it. So right now I'm putting in a 0.5 placement line, pushing it up about a centimeter, making sure it's nice and clean, so I'm putting a firm amount of pressure on it to make sure it's a 0.5. So straight after that I'm going to put in another guideline, which is my 1 open. and I'm pushing it up about the same amount, and putting in guidelines is going to help me keep my fade balanced all the way around, and it allows me to control my fade. If I want a tighter fade, I can do smaller guidelines, or if I really want to stretch out that fade, I can push them guidelines up a little bit more. So now my guidelines are all in, I'm going to start working down from the top. So I'm going to start with a number 2, and I'm just working just below that number 3 that I've done at the start. So after putting in all my guidelines, I'm going to start fading, and I'm going to use the wall legends to fade these lines out. This is what I've been doing recently. I've been using my seniors to put in guidelines, and then my legends to fade out the lines. The reason why I don't use my legends to put in guidelines is because that extended lever is slightly longer, which gives me more work when fading out the guidelines. So with the 1.5 guard, I'm fading in the 1 open into the 2. Now I'm moving on to my 1. I'm going to work from open, and I'm going to slowly close that to soften that line. The 1 guard shouldn't remove the line. You could go straight into that 0.5. You don't actually have to use a 1 guard, but I'm just using that to soften it. And also the 1 open, I can use that to refine the 1.5 guard. Now that the number 1 is done, I'm going to use the 0.5 to blend out that 0.5 line, which will leave me 1 remaining line. So now to fade out that final line, I'm going to start with my clipper all the way closed, and I'm going to slowly open that lever to fade out that final line. This is probably the most detailed part of the fade, but after this step is done, the haircut is going to look sick. So let's go. Now the sides are done, we need to fade out the back. Make sure when you're fading, keep moving around the head. You can always go back to refine your work. So don't spend too long on a certain area, keep moving around, and when you go back to it later, it's going to be easier to refine when you see the haircut as a whole. So right here I'm just refining, detailing some of the parts that I need to touch up, and now using the foils to touch up the bottom. Keeping it nice and low, flicking out just above the hairline. This is going to give the fade an extra transition, more contrast in the fade, and the trim might last a little bit longer. So the fade is done. Now I'm going to just touch up the hairline, keeping it nice and natural. You're not really going to see it anyway because the curls are going to cover it, but he wants it a little bit cleaner, so I'm just going to touch up the hairline to give it a little shape. scissor over comb now to soften that weight line. Now I'm wetting down the hair a little bit and I'm just going to style it because I used the clips earlier. I need to style it a little bit more, and I put a little bit of product in as well, just a bit of matte clay. So now that the top is styled, I'm just going to touch up a little bit of scissor over comb if I can see any parts that need refining. I like using my Andes Masters to refine right at the end. I think it just gives the fade a softer finish. And there we have it, guys. That is the before. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope everyone has a lovely Christmas and a happy new year. I'll see you guys on the other side. Stay fresh, stay faded, stay blessed. It's your boy Barber Jase. Peace.